Years ago, Charles Dobson, the leader of Focus on the Family, told this story about how his family liked to play Monopoly. My family, I grew up playing Monopoly, all different members of my family. And he said that Monopoly is much like the game of life. You can learn so much about life from Monopoly, about how to count, how to manage your money, mergers and acquisitions if you're in business, but also he said there's one very important rule, one of the most important lessons in life you can learn from Monopoly, that when the game is over, after you've accumulated all your wealth, all your riches, or you lost it all either way, everything, all the pieces go back into the box. There's a modern day story there's a story over in Luke chapter 12, and I'm going to kind of modernize it for our case, a parable that Jesus tells. And it's about a rich man, a very busy man. He's going to do everything he can, whatever it takes to be successful, and it does take everything that he has. He works 14-hour days, sometimes 5 days a week, sometimes 6 days a week. He so believed in the 40-hour work week that sometimes he did 2 40-hour work weeks in 1 week because he loved it so much. His wife knew they were kind of growing apart, and she tried to kind of get his attention, but he never was around long enough, so she kind of gave up on doing that. But she did nag him about the kids and the family because they were missing him a lot, and down deep he knew he was missing them too, and the kids would complain. They would complain about him not showing up for dinner, not showing up for their sports games or for their concerts or so forth. And, he kept thinking, one day I'll do that. One day I'll do that. In fact, one of his sons, his younger son, saw that his dad brought his computer home, his laptop, every single night. He said, Dad, why do you bring your laptop home every night? Well, son, I just can't get all my work done at the office, so I got to do it at home. And he said, well, Dad, why don't they put you in a slower group? Well, the kid didn't, his son, the dad didn't like that too much. So, he stayed in that group and he kept on working hard. One night, he feels a little twinge in his chest, about 11 o'clock at night. He rolls over, tells his wife. And so she makes him an appointment at the doctor, and he goes. And the doctor says, yeah, you got all the classic symptoms, and you got high blood pressure, you got high cholesterol, all that sort of stuff. You need a significant life change. And so he does, and the symptoms kind of change, and then so does his motivation. It kind of just totally goes away, and he's back to living life exactly the way he was. And he's thinking, there'll be plenty of time for the family later on. There'll be plenty more time for my wife later on. There'll be plenty more time for the kids later on. And for my body, there'll be plenty of time to get that right after everything settles down. 6 months or so, things will settle down. And he was a very bright, brilliant, smart guy, but he didn't realize that things would probably never, ever settle down. He knew his life was at a rhythm. He knew that it was. And his wife would bring up every once in a while about that little church down the street. Hey, let's go to that church. Let's go to that church. Let's go to that church. And his response was always, honey, man, I'm tired on Sundays. It's my only day to sleep in. It's my only day to do nothing. But hey, one day there'll be plenty of time. There'll be plenty of time for God and plenty of time for church. Well, he has a conversation with his boss. His boss comes to him one day and says, man, tell you what, we are on the brink of a miracle. He said, we got a new contract. We got all this business coming in. This is all these orders. This is what we've been looking for, man. This is it. Our ship has come in. We are going to finally hit it big time. This is it. He said, the only thing is we have so many orders, we can't handle them. Our technology's not the speed. If we don't do something, we're going to have some major headaches. And he gets all excited, and he dives in and gets even more busier, works even more hard. He is really committed to this. He said, man, I'm finally going to make it. I'm really going to be successful. And so he just starts thinking all these innovative ideas of how he can integrate AI into the entire program to make life easier, and how they can do all these reorganization to meet the need. And he's so excited about it. He comes home and he tells his wife, he said, babe, after I get finished with this project, I'm finally going to kind of take the gas off the pedal. I'm going to be able to slow down a little bit, and we're going to be rich. We're going to have everything that we need. We can take that vacation, do all sorts of stuff. And well, she kind of heard that before. So she didn't get real excited about it. Finally, about 11 o'clock, she said, I'm going to bed. Do you want to join me? He said, no, I'm going to stay for a little bit longer. Got a few things more done. She wakes up at 3 o'clock in the morning and she looks over and his spot in the bed is still empty. So she goes downstairs and she finds him kind of asleep, got his head on his shoulders, kind of like what we do, tired, and she touches him on the shoulder and it's cold. She kind of shakes him and it scares her because he's really cold. She calls 911 and they arrive and they quickly conclude he'd been dead for a couple of hours. Heart attack. His death was a big story in the financial community. So much so, they wrote up an article about him in Forbes and Wall Street Journal, Fortune 500. And if he had been alive, he'd have been really proud about what they wrote about him because he was very successful. He talked about just what an entrepreneur he was and an innovator in the financial community. Because he was so prominent in the community, they had a big memorial service. Lots of people showed up and they all walked by the casket. They saw his body there and they said the same stupid thing that every stupid person does that comes to a situation like that. Oh, look how peaceful he looks. Oh, look how, well, when you're dead, you look pretty peaceful. There's really not much to worry about. And it was a big service. I mean, everybody came out and some very prominent people stood up and they eulogized him and they called him all these things. He was a visionary. He was an entrepreneur. He was a leader. Somebody else talked about his technology savvy, how he was creative. He was an innovator, made all this new stuff happen. Somebody else talked about, man, he never cheated at anything. He never cheated at work. He never cheated on his expense account. He never cheated on his wife or his kids. I mean, he was a straight shooter in everything that he did. And it went on and on and on and on and on and on and on. And he was such a prominent person, was so successful there at the company. They created this memorial actually on the campus of the business for which he worked. For this guy that so many people admired, that was so wealthy, that was so neglected his family and ignored God. They had a huge memorial. And on that memorial there, they put all these words. They put entrepreneur, visionary, leader. And at the very, very top, of the memorial, they had one word. The word he had sold his soul for. That is success. Success. Well, in the middle of the night, when everybody had gone home, unseen and unheard, the scriptures kind of imply that an angel shows up and takes a finger and very lightly prescribes on that stone the one word that God has to describe the life of that man who was just so rich and so wealthy and so successful. And this is how it reads, verse 20, Luke 12. You fool. Just one word. Fool. Then it says, this very night your life will be demanded or required from you. Now that word demand or required in Jesus' day was a word from the financial sector saying that your very heartbeat, your soul, doesn't even belong to you. And that one day your heart, your soul, your life, it will be demanded, it will be required, it will come due, that it will go back to God. And then it says, the very next line, then, verse 20, who will get all that you have prepared for yourself? Who will get all that your money can buy, all the wealth you've accumulated? Who's going to get it? You see, the man in our story here, in our modern day version of this parable of the rich fool, forgot the most important lesson in life that Dobson shared he learned from Monopoly. That at the end of your life, at the end of the game, which this guy played well, all the pieces go back into the box. And then Jesus says, this is how it will be with whoever stores up things for themselves, but they are not rich towards God. Let's leave it at that. We'll pick up that idea next week in our next small group lesson. But for now, engage in your small group, dig in, think, reflect, read the scriptures. And I'm praying for you. Please pray for me.